Liftoff.
Yeah, so this was Izzy's pick, The Game. Haven't seen this one in a while, man. I guess you guys want to kick it off. Initial thoughts? You want to jump right into it?
Yeah, let's start off by being like, hey, spoilers, though.
Oh yeah, if you guys haven't seen this, obviously.
Yeah, this one's
be spoilers.
Like, us saying
this
that
movie came out when? When did this come out?
Like really, yeah, it like will ruin the movie if you haven't seen it. So
it's like
right.
Kaiser Sose spoilers.
It is that.
I mean, it's gonna.
Someone's like, "Who's Kaiser?" That'd be funny.
All right, so initial thoughts, Izzy. We'll kick it off with you since it was your pick. Initial thoughts.
So I saw this movie. I think I told this story. Maybe I did. I can't remember last week. How someone forced me to watch this, and I didn't. Fincher wasn't like a name yet for me, and I think I'd seen Seven, and it like blew my mind completely. Like, but I didn't understand it was the same director. And someone, a really close friend of mine, forced me to watch. Actually, it was Joelle, Jared. She was like, "You have to see this movie. You have to see this movie." It was just me and her. We watched it, and she was just quiet the whole time. And all she wanted to do is watch my reaction to everything. Right? Didn't spoil anything. Didn't get in the way of the film. Just let me experience it. And it was a good call because she already could tell like the kind of films I was starting to like at that age. So this movie had the same kind of mind-blowing effect on me that Seven did in a less gruesome way. You know what I mean? Seven is much more depraved, kind of, in nature. And this movie is much more kind of book smarts kind of thriller in a way, like, you know what I mean? The scares aren't as like gory and stuff, like in concept, but it had the same kind of feel to it. And it makes sense that it's Fincher after Seven. Right after Seven, I mean, Seven won. Well, it was the first ever MTV Movie Awards. It won Best Movie.
Oh, wow.
Seven did right?
It really?
So he was like on top of the world right then, like in a tiny way, as like a mainstream indie guy, like, you know what I mean, kind of, because he finally got to do what he wanted after Alien 3, right? So to me, like, my first impression of this movie was the twist was amazing. I'd never seen anything like it, even though I'd already seen Seven. And it did stick with me. And it also, like, I already liked Michael Douglas, but you don't see him doing this kind of a movie ever, right? So revisiting it now, my first impressions are that it didn't age at all. Like, it looks amazing. To me personally, and I know we're probably all going to have like different disagreements about this, but like, I don't think this movie aged a day. I look at it and it is still like perfectly done. The camera shots don't feel dated. The pacing doesn't feel dated. The soundtrack doesn't feel dated. Like, none of it feels kitschy or like it doesn't just, it just doesn't feel like a 90s movie to me. It just feels like a good movie. Right. Which I was ready to watch it again this time and be like, okay, how's this going to feel? You know what I mean? Like, if I'm really analyzing it, but I mean, man, the camera work is so crispy, and I kind of forget how Fincher does a lot of things in camera, and the stuff he doesn't do in camera, you almost don't feel it. He's so weird about his CG stuff, but this is before that, right? Mm-hmm. So since he already had that strength built up, much like the way Nolan would do later, honestly, as far as like doing everything in camera, it just makes for a good movie. If the script is good, the acting is good, the pacing is good, it has your attention, right? So that's kind of where I'll leave it before we get into the likes. But I was just like, damn, this Rex still. Like, I watched the whole thing all the way through. I loved it, so.
How long has it been since you watched it last, Izzy?
Oh man, a few years at least. Because I do revisit.
Did you watch it today?
Huh?
Did you watch it today again?
No, yes. Sure. What day is it? Today's Monday. I watched it yesterday. No, okay. Yeah, I did. I watched it yesterday. Yesterday.
Jared, initial thoughts.
So yeah, I first time I saw this movie was probably like Izzy's experience. Word of mouth just got around that it was pretty good, and so I either rented it or I watched it on TV, which probably took a lot out of it. Commercials in the middle and editing and all that stuff, try to get it down to 2 hours. But I think I rented it. But anyways, I watched it then and I thought, yeah, that's pretty good. And then this time, since Izzy picked it, and I tried to look at it with like a more critical eye and pick stuff apart or find stuff that I was really impressed with and give it that kind of overhaul the 20 years later, Jared. I thought it was pretty good.
Nice.
So
Right,
pretty much the same. Pretty much the same as last time I saw it.
Yeah.
I dug
I
it.
think that's impressive. That 20-year like let's actually get into that for a second. Since you kind of agree with that, I don't want to like tear into our likes and dislikes yet, but like that is really what struck me. That I was like, yo, that says a lot about Fincher. That like he can make a movie that almost 20 years later feels like a new movie. It feels like Gone Girl. Like it feels like, and that doesn't mean he stagnated as a director. It means he nailed it early, right? And then like think about for a second in 1996, watching a movie from 76 and saying the same thing. It's not possible, right? Or being in 2006 and watching a movie from 86, not possible, right? So the game is really crazy in that way. That
I was gonna say I went off last on Monte Cristo about 90s movies.
Yeah.
My views on 90s movies.
Yeah.
And how even though that one was 2002, I think.
Yeah.
It felt like a 90s movie, but
Yeah.
this one did not. Like it totally holds up.
It's crazy. I don't know how he did it. It's like every time you look back 20 years, you feel it. And this movie, like I was like, I don't feel it. Even 7, you kind of feel it a little bit. But yeah.
I didn't make the connection either that it was Fincher. Like back then, I don't think I was looking at, because I saw 7 in the theater. I remember that distinctly seeing that movie in the theater. Like, it leaves a mark, right?
Yeah.
That movie doesn't leave you. But I don't think I was back then. I don't think I was really following directors as much as I do now. And
Either.
And
Yep.
I mean, it's crazy that this is the movie that's in between that and Fight Club.
Yeah, dude, right?
It is kind of wild to think about. Yeah.
I love Fight
Well, I
Club.
was going to say one thing real
Love
quick. You
Fight
talked
Club.
Yeah.
about you talked about MTV Awards. Fincher was like kind of didn't he do like music videos for a long time?
He did a couple Madonna ones. Yeah, that's what he did
He did
first
a bunch.
before they threw him onto Alien 3 because they ran out of options. They're like, what about this guy? He's young, you know, and to his credit, that movie is directed well. And when they do interviews with like, you know, Sigourney Weaver and like they're like any of those actors that are in that film are like, he was great to work with, even though he only did music videos at that point. He knew what he was doing. He would make us do a bunch of retakes and we understood why. Like it was like really clearly communicated. Like, and it's like, man, Sigourney Weaver's like a boss at that point. Like,
Right.
Oh, full stop. Like full stop legend at that point. And she's like, oh, it was beautiful to work with this kid who's directing rock videos, you know? So you knew something was up, even at worst. But yeah, you're right. He might have had like, I guess what you're saying is like maybe he knew people. People already liked it. Yeah. On the committee.
Yeah.
People are voting. That could
I
be
looked at the
totally
list
possible.
of his videos, and it's funny. The most recent one that he did, like he waited a long time between music videos, and I think the most recent one that he did was Justin Timberlake's Suit and
Timberlake.
Tie.
He directed that?
Jay-Z.
He directed Suit and Tie video. I don't remember that
Oh,
video,
wow.
but
That's an amazing video.
may have never seen
Yeah.
that video. I love the song, but
That's
That's
a
him.
really good. That makes a lot of. Now that I think about like the visuals in that video, that makes sense that that's him. It's got
I
his
didn't
like
watch
his style. I thought it was good. I liked it, man. It had, I think I'm just like you guys. The first time I saw it, I was here, and a friend of mine, like we were looking for a movie to watch, and he just recommended it. He's like, "Oh, you got to see The Game. It's really good."
yeah,
We put it on, and I liked it. I still liked it. I thought it was good. I mean, it's Fincher. I mean, Fincher to me is like one of the best directors of all time. He's one of those guys like Nolan or Snyder or Villanueva, like or Barry Jenkins. Like whenever I see a Fincher movie, I already know I'm kind of gonna like it just 'cause he just makes all good movies. It was real. Yeah, I gotta agree, man. I was watching it, and I was like, this doesn't feel like an older movie to me at all. Like it felt like he didn't go like I feel like a lot of '90s movies that everyone kind of fell into the stereotype of being, I don't know, kind of corny. Like no one was really like not a lot of people took those movies seriously. I think.
Well, and also edgy in
Fincher-
a way that wasn't subtle.
Yeah, right, and like you could tell he took this movie seriously. Like when
Real
he made
subtle,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, right.
Even
So,
that's hard to say with Sean Penn in the film, but it's true.
Right, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, with Sean Penn in there. I forgot he was in it till he popped up. Yeah, the camera work was really good. I thought, like especially for that time. So I was good. I liked it. I thought it was good.
My initial thoughts, honestly, a quick take. There was a lot of good '90s movies. Like you can just sit there and watch through them. There was a lot of good ones, good storytelling. You know, I think in the '90s there was a lot of original stories to be told. I feel like everybody just getting everything from the past is where we are at right now. It's like trying to find a original idea to put on the. But anyways, this movie, my initial thoughts, and I do where I was at when, but I do remember like fully engulfed in it, like just fully just great actors through and through, and you know, as I was younger, the twist at the end because like I was kind of wondering if it's a game or not. Like, is this really a game or is this not a game? I don't know. It had me going back and forth, and so when I rewatched it now, you know, knowing the full story and rewatched it now, and it's like it was a great storytelling. It was like original story. Like who would think of something like this to put it on the film? You know. So for me, because I like something that makes sense, and this story made sense. You know, in that era of thinking that you have this rich person who's bored. You know what I'm saying? Who's bored, but he has a family who cares. You don't want him to end up like his father. Like, so you kind of have that storyline that's going right there. And so what do rich white people do? Well, let's find something that's fun to do. And that was the storyline and how it just went that way. And it honestly, it just grasped you from the start all the way to the finish. It had a good backstory. They didn't draw it out. It was like it kept you interested, you know, because they didn't give you too much information. They gave you enough to figure out on your own. So my initial thoughts, honestly, was just I love the hell out of this movie. It's still the same. I still love the hell out of this movie, and that's my initial thoughts.
Yes.
Alrighty. Is that everyone's initial thoughts?
I think
Before we move
so.
on
Yeah.
to these likes
Let's do it.
up in there. All right, bet.
sir.
All right. All right, Easy, you're up, man.
Okay, so I like the lighting, and I actually like really want the lighting and the pacing are the two strongest parts of this film, besides the acting on the part of Michael Douglas, obviously, and Sean Penn, obviously, right? So,
Right.
But so like I looked up how David Fincher does lighting specifically. Because it really, in this movie in particular, it really grosses me out because he's really technologically limited lighting wise in '96. And it says he almost refuses to use extraneous lighting. Unless he absolutely has to, he will only use natural lighting when he's shooting.
Mhm.
And I was like, you're kidding me.
Mm-hmm.
You're kidding me. That's why it feels like you're in the room. Because
Right.
you are. He just throws a camera in front of him, and that's why he swears by red cameras now, because they can see in the dark,
Oh yeah.
like the human eye can, right? And you see that in Collateral. I don't know how many people have seen Collateral. That was the first film to ever be shot.
Army of
with
the
those
Dead.
cameras.
That's what Zach used. Red camera.
Is it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
God damn, dude. It's like that. Oh man, I don't know. So the lighting really struck me, and it's just because you feel like you're there, but also the pacing. I think this is the best example of Fincher
Collateral was a
pacing.
good movie.
Yes, Collateral is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
It's a great
full
movie.
agree. Yes. So like the thing about the pacing in this one, for me personally, is even though Fincher is my favorite director, he always rushes his third acts. And it's like I love him despite it, but I see it in every film he does. It's like the third act kind of speeds up in a way that you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa,
That's
and
a
then
good
credits.
point. It does.
Huh?
That's a good
Every
point.
time.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah, except for this movie. This movie doesn't do it.
Right.
And it's amazing. It's so amazing. By the time you're on that rooftop with him, when they're like putting the buzzsaw through the locks, like you're just like, oh my, you're ready for the movie to end. You know what I mean? But I feel like sometimes the ending sneaks up on you with Fincher a little bit. Even in 7, even though that one was really well played out, still a little quick with him in the car being sent off, anything he needs, boom, and then credits, and you're like, oh, okay, like, all right, I love that movie, and that twist was crazy. But anyways, I think what happened is he did 7, and he got a bunch of support and money, and he was allowed to just kind of calmly make a film, right? And I think when he made the game, it did fine, but like it didn't do like 7 fine.
Right.
So I'm not sure what made him pivot tonally into Fight Club. Maybe he just read the book or whatever, but like it's weird how like you feel a major shift in Fight Club where it's like much more digestible. That movie feels like a graphic novel compared to the game to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's why I like the game so much, is that it like this is what I'm going to get to. This is my point, okay? The game is who David Fincher actually is as a director before he's actually allowed to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, because it's basically a second movie. Like Alien 3 doesn't really count. He even says that. He was thrown on like really like 11th hour. But like, you know, he does 7. It's amazing. And then you watch the game and you're like, dude, this feels like every piece of work you did after Fight Club, after everyone trusted you.
Right.
Right? You look at Panic Room. You look at Gone Girl. You look at Social Network. They all, Girl Dragon Tattoo, they all feel like this film. Every one of them, as far as lighting, as far as the camera work, all of that. So that's one of my favorite things about this movie, is that he was already that good of a director this early, but he wasn't quite respected for it yet because he kind of jumped the gun. He wasn't cool yet. I mean, even though he did 7, he wasn't quite. You got to do it twice. Yeah. You know what I mean? He didn't really do it twice yet. So like he had to do Fight Club, and everyone was like, "All right, you're cool, dude." And he's like, "Okay, sick." But the game kind of happened early, like so that kind of blows my mind. That's one of my favorite things about it. Also, Michael Douglas doing a movie like this is crazy. I love it. I like how I personally abandoned. I don't know about you guys. I actually want to ask you this. Was there a point in the movie when you first saw it where you abandoned fully the idea that it was a game?
Did I ever abandon the idea that it was a game? I think the first time I did. Yes. I think it was when they started, like the guys started shooting up in the apartment.
Yep.
They got out of the van. I think that's when I thought like it wasn't a game.
Okay.
At that point.
Jared, did you have a moment like that when you first saw it?
I was actually going to say another time, but you're right. That happened before. I mean, there's the twist before the final twist.
Yep.
And at that point, I thought, yes, it was a game, but he wasn't still in it, right? When he spoilers, shoots his brother.
Yeah.
I thought at that point he was out of the game.
Mm.
Oh, interesting. Oh, you okay? Oh, so you followed it that far? Okay.
But no, that was my initial answer. But when I think back to what David said, he's right. When they started shooting up the place, I knew that he was in it. When he went in there, so when they're driving in the car, and he reading off his codes, even before she gave him that look, I was like, dude, what are you doing? Like, so I knew that it was still a game at that point, but then yes, I did have that thought with when they started shooting at him. Yeah, you're right. Good,
Raheem?
Good call, Dave, right there.
I kept going back. I legit kept going back and forth. Because it'll be another scene. It was like, okay, that is part of the game. And then it'll be a scene like, hold on, man, this is too damn. too damn real, for this to be going down. So I don't think it's a game anymore. Like this is real. I think he was coerced to thinking it's a game, but really it's like a real life situation. So it plays with your mind going back and forth. Like I said, I love stories, and if you can do it well, it will involve you all the way through. It will take all your emotions, all of it, and that's what this movie did. And it still does, evidently. It still takes your emotions, even though you know what's going to happen. So for me, the biggest part though is just to contribute to Jared Ray. The biggest part is when he shot his brother. He knows who's coming through that door.
Yeah.
He was at the height of I am so done. I don't know what to do. I was going to stay alive, and he ended up shooting his brother. This is the crazy part. The crazy part was he ended up doing the same thing his father did, was jump off the building anyway.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which is what his brother didn't want him to do. Didn't want him to end up being like. You know what I'm saying? Like the irony of the whole scene was so ridiculous. It was good. It's like you can't shoot it down. It's a really good movie, really good writing, actors is really so good, actors, and every part of that so scene of trying to make you believe that the game or is it not a game? Is it a game or is it not a game? So it was good.
Mm-hmm.
So like the part where I fully abandoned that it was a game the first time I saw it was when he woke up in that coffin in Mexico. I was like, this is not part of this.
Right.
I fully bought it at that point. And he had to he had to hawk his watch to that guy to get a passport.
Right.
I'm like, nope, there's no way. There's zero way. And so it absolutely worked on me when they opened the gates. And because you watch him go back and solve everything. That's the third act. Is him be like, okay, I got robbed. I have nothing left. Like, it never occurs to you that was Sean Penn's entire thing, to be like, I need him to know he has nothing so that he gets his humility and gratefulness back.
Right.
And so I totally didn't think ahead of it that way. And you totally could have. Like, if you're like super smart, you could be like, oh yeah, that would be the game though, right? Like, but I abandoned it once he was in Mexico. That's when I abandoned it. And then I was there for it every step after that. I was like, that's what the third act is, him getting revenge on them. Because that's what every movie did back then.
Yeah,
Was like, it's like, I've been abused and beaten down for the whole first 2/3 of the movie. And now I'm getting my revenge because I'm going to outthink him. Right. And then her being like, what's that gun you have? Like, that's supposed to be an automatic. That whole thing, all of it. And how real his brother's wound looks. But as far as the emotional part of it too, I'll wrap up my likes with this. Raheem had a really good point where, like, I actually still tear up when after he jumps through and falls and lands on the thing and they're all being nice to him and it's all slow motion and everything, right? You almost never see Fincher use slow-mo ever. It's so cool when he does it. And it's like, it's all them just crowding him. You would think it would be some other part, but they're like all crowding and be like, hey, there's glass in your face. And they stand him up and he's like looking around.
Yeah.
And I still teared up this time alone in my apartment when Sean Penn grabs him and goes, ladies and gentlemen, my brother, Nicholas Van Orton. And they all start clapping.
Yeah.
And you just see him, like, you just see what the purpose of the game is.
Mm-hmm.
And then you think back to when those guys are like, it provides the one thing that's missing. And he's like, well, what if nothing's missing? And it's like, of course, a person like you would say that. Right? I'm going to show you what's missing. I'm going to show you. And what a sweet act on the part of his brother. Yep. So that's like one of my favorite parts. Like, it totally made me tear up still. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, that's still there. But I mean, we're talking about Sean Penn and like Michael Douglas under the direction of David Fincher, right? Of course that's going to work.
Right, exactly.
Where's the wink in that scene? It doesn't exist. But I'll gush forever. So like, that's it. That's my likes.
Can you tell me how Sean Penn got down there so fast?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. Actually,
he had a really fast elevator.
Yeah, right.
So one of my dislikes actually turned into a like. So the whole time I'm watching and I'm looking at, like, how can this whole thing actually be planned out? Like, some of this stuff is just really coincidental, A big one was when he saw the guy on the TV the actor,
Yeah.
and then
After he gets back from Mexico, right?
he called the place and they said, "What zoo are you at?" The one with the white tiger. So the next scene, he's actually at the zoo. I don't know how he got there so fast. Again,
He met with his ex-wife, and borrowed a car.
okay, but the chance that he meets them at the actual white tiger,
Right.
which is what the person said.
Yeah.
And then the fact that I know this is sounding like a dislike, but I'm going to tell you how it turned into a like
Sure.
with one line. The other one was, how did you know he was going to like jump off that building? I mean, that is
Oh, yeah.
that was the
addressed that.
culmination, right? That was everything. And so when the actor said to him, it was a weird throwaway line. It was delivered a little strange, but still said so much. Where he said, "I'm glad that you jumped off, because if you didn't, I was going to have to throw you off."
Yeah.
And that
Thank God
kind
you jumped off. Otherwise, I was supposed to throw you off.
right, which means there was a contingency plan and like
Everything.
multiple variations of directions. Everything could go. And the tiger scene was it was a plan. He was in that restaurant, and the commercial came on because they played the commercial where he happened to see this.
Totally.
And the person that he called to the talent agent of the actor was part of the whole thing too, and directed him there. So yeah, that one line flip-flopped that whole thing from a dislike to a like, because okay, you explained all of everything with one line, like how this could actually pan out realistically, right? These guys are amazing at what they do.
Yeah.
The other like I had, it's funny that you mentioned the tomb scene where he wakes up in Mexico, because I like instantly the lighting in that scene was so awesome. Like it's just a quick kind of throwaway scene, but I loved it. Like that was a freeze frame worth putting on your wall.
Well, you're used to seeing a lot of gray in the film until then, and then you see all these beautiful, rich oranges and sepias and stuff happening like out of nowhere in the third act. You're like, what movie am I watching? Like kind of
right. And somehow there's a contrast that all of a sudden the pretty colors mean something really bad.
Really bad.
I was half expecting him to have to like climb out of a like being buried.
Oh, for sure.
I thought that was coming next. Sean Penn was, he's a like always. That was another thing that was explained. I thought that he was, when he jumped in the car, I'm like, wow, Sean Penn's like really overacting right now.
But that's the thing. He's trying to sell it.
Because he's not an actor, he's doing his thing. So yeah, that was really cool. Later on, that all made sense that he was a part of the whole thing. I didn't remember the final twist this time, which is great. Being a Fincher film, now knowing Fincher, I full on expected that was the end. That he was going to shoot his brother. He was going to shoot his brother and he was going to kill himself. And I could see some people like turn off the TV at that point because it's a long fall, but they would have missed.
Yeah.
They would have missed everything. So
that'd be fun. All right, this is done. Right. That'd be hilarious.
Expecting one of you guys to do that since you watched it so late. You're like, okay, I thought about coming on here and pretending I did that.
That's funny, dude.
And then yeah, I knew you guys would bring up the camera angles, all the stuff from like the ground level pointing up. I really like that. There's a lot of that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay. My likes, I liked the story of the movie. I really liked that it was about like this cocky rich dude who got humbled. I liked that so much. I liked the way they did it. I thought it was really cool the way they did it. I kind of forgot that's what it was about when I started watching. And then like towards like the way he was treating like the waitress at the restaurant, and like the way he kind of just like ignores everyone who's like the help a little bit in the beginning. I was like, okay, I remember now. He's about to get humbled. I like the direction style of it. I like the way Fincher works the camera. It was really good. Yeah, I do like the lighting of it. That's cool. That's cool. You said he used like natural lighting in a lot of those scenes. That's
Even
really cool.
still,
Now that
to this
that's
day.
yeah, that's really cool. That's really cool. I could tell now that I think about it. Um, I thought the acting was really good. I think the reason I thought his acting was good is like you said, is because you wouldn't see him act like this in a lot of movies.
Douglas?
Which is what made it like so good. Is because I don't know, it was like not only was his character out of element, like because he was a rich guy getting humble, but it was like I felt like he was out of his element too a little bit, like Douglas, the way
He's
he
good
was
at doing
acting
the
in
quiet.
the movie.
Yeah, he's good
Called-
at doing the quiet
it's-
intensity thing. He
It's
was
called
really the
acting,
perfect
bro.
cast.
He sold it
Yeah.
real good.
Real good, yeah, he did. He sold it real good.
Do you guys
Yeah.
remember the movie called Falling Down that he did?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
So that was,
I don't
that
think
was
I've
before this. Isn't that
Yeah.
kind of the same genre?
Yeah, I would call it the same genre. Isn't it Tony Scott?
I think yeah, I think so.
It's one of my favorite movies. It's so hard to watch and so good and well directed. Like,
Watching this made me want to go back and watch that.
oh, for sure. Or Black Rain. Any of
Oh,
the Douglas
that's good.
movies. Yeah, where he's serious, Wall Street, any of that stuff. He's so good.
Mhm.
Like, it's the smoldering intensity. He just has it. Like, one of my favorite lines in the movie that he does that seems like a throwaway line, where he's like, "You don't know about society, Janet. You don't have the satisfaction of avoiding it."
Yeah.
And he just says it really without even looking at her. Next, like, you know what I mean? And I'm just like, how is that so believable? When if it was any other actor, I don't know that I would have cared. But every line he delivers makes you believe him more when it's Douglas.
Right. Yeah. No, and one other thing that I did like, which is like completely a side note, which I don't know, probably shouldn't affect my viewpoint of the movie, but back when Zach was kind of fully running the DC universe, and Ben Affleck was going to make a solo Batman movie based on, you know, Zach's take on Batman or whatever. His Batman script was heavily based on this movie. The
Hmm.
plot
No
of this
way.
movie. Yeah. His Batman solo movie was going to be about him and like Arkham Asylum, and it was heavily taken off of the game. Like the kind of like the plot of this movie.
For real?
I just like I kept seeing it the whole time when I was watching this movie. I was like, yeah, I could see like him interacting with like Riddler and
That
Joker,
would've been
whoever,
raw.
like in Arkham Asylum. Like the whole time I was watching it, I was like, yeah, I could see it. I could see it.
That's crazy because I thought it was just because I'm a Batman fan. I didn't know that, but I was thinking Bruce Wayne in this situation would make
Right.
such a cool comic.
Right?
Because it's still a rich white guy that's getting messed with,
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And he's out thinking it. Right?
Yep. Yep.
Man.
So yeah, those are my likes. All right, Ra. Oh, that sucks, Ryan.
What I got from him is it withstands the test of time.
He said something about a female lead, or like didn't he? Like empowering a female. I thought I heard that.
Read, yeah. The convenience of everything kind of bothered him. Some of the things. I
Yeah.
thought we were doing likes, so I don't know why he said that, but maybe he was just letting it all out because he knew it was gone.
Welcome to Three Takes.
Yes.
Oh, poor guy.
Okay. Well, you guys want to move on to dislikes?
Yeah, let's do it, man. Let's go to dislikes.
Okay.
All right,
basically-
Mr. Izzy.
All right. So I basically have like none, but I do have one kind of if I really dig deep, as I think this is like nearly like the perfect film for what it's trying to do. But I don't. The color palette, it feels really gray for most of the film. That's probably my one. If I could change something, I think I would up the colors, like in the tint and stuff a little bit. Not really the contrast, but like maybe just. I mean, there's the scene where she takes her shirt off and you see her bra and the red just really pops, right? But it's not quite enough. You know what I mean? But it's like, it's almost like the perfect movie for what it's trying to do, though. It feels like a weird Hitchcock thriller without it being dated. Like, I don't know, so it's tough to like find something not to like about it for me. It's definitely one of my all-time favorite movies. So like, but I think the color palette can be, I think it could really bore people if they put it on and they just left it on in the background, they would ignore it because the colors don't like jump out at all. Like it just does feel really gray, blue kind of a thing. So I think that would be my biggest one if I had one, if I had to really dig deep and find one.
Okay, I understand that. Mr. Jared.
I didn't like the way they did the flashbacks with the 60s broken up film because it really doesn't make sense that it would be there. If it was actual like home video stuff, it would make sense. But there were some shots that were obviously there was nobody there with a camera.
Right, him in the car rolling up when his dad jumped.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the one. That's the only one that's not on a home movie, but it's shot that way.
Well, yeah, and some of it too didn't feel authentic to me. Maybe just because, I mean, you can't really completely recreate something like that unless you're doing a movie 20 years later and it's Mank.
I was gonna say I thought that they did that really good, and it was like almost like a preview of him doing a whole movie that way. That's what I thought.
A lot of it looked really good. There were just a couple scenes that to me that
shoving that kid in the pool.
Yeah,
the mom running up, like, what are you doing?
Well, I mean, I get that they were trying to show us that it was the 60s, but the thing was, is the 60s didn't actually look like that. You know, I mean,
yeah,
yes, they do. So yeah, I didn't buy into that, but it was an interesting way of doing it. But I think I would have rather they just like did it straight up, you know, flashbacks. So speaking of the jumping scene, or speaking of the old shots, was that Michael Douglas playing his dad?
No.
No?
But isn't that amazing how it just totally looks like him?
It looks so much like him.
I know.
And they could have got Kirk Douglas to play him, I bet.
Yeah.
But
I guess I
wasn't
could
him,
have.
though.
Yeah.
because he's looking more and more like Kirk Douglas.
You know what's neat about that intro scene, actually, really quick, not to like step on your dislikes right now, but like you can see Ilsa in that scene, his maid. She's in that scene as a young woman, and that actress looks just like her as a young woman. And you see Conrad, right? You see the mom hand a crying baby to Nicholas, and it's Conrad. And that's your picture of their relationship. And it is awesome. Because I've watched this movie like probably 12 times, right? In the past, like over the course of since it came out and now, like, and I was like, I never noticed that before. That is the tiniest, quickest thing that tells you just in those scenes. Like, but anyways, I'm not trying to be like, you shouldn't dislike that. I just, I was reminded of that. That's like a cool thing. So
I saw in that flashback, one of them was it the Culkin kid? It was one of the Culkins.
Was it?
I think so. And I was like,
really?
Oh man, it looked like it to me. I didn't check the cast, but one of the kids in the flashbacks totally looked like Macaulay or his younger brother. I remember his younger brother.
Really? Dang, now I'm really curious.
I would almost bet, but maybe it's just another kid looked like him. I don't know who the actress was. I don't think she's ever been in anything else. Christine or whatever. Like, and she was.
Oh yeah, she's in inappropriate films.
Speaking of inappropriate films, there was one point where he said something about they're staring at me like I'm so and so, and I looked it up and it was just some big boobed porn chick that I don't know from the 90s. Right. It was when the actor was trying to sneak him into the place, and,
right.
And yeah, I was just like, who? What? Who?
Yeah.
So I looked it up, and
no, but she's actually like, she's an actress that's taken seriously, but she does stuff like Cronenberg movies with, you know, like James Spader when he was on his stint of doing indie movies that were very highly sexual in the 90s. Oh, like she was, that's kind of like, yeah, she was like, but this movie, you don't actually see her naked, which is kind of wild. And she's like,
she does tell you she's not wearing panties.
She does say that.
She did say that.
You know what's crazy? I did a little bit of reading on the Wikipedia, and she comes up, get this, Douglas wasn't the first person to be cast for this role. And when it came back to him, it was because Fincher wanted him, and Fincher wasn't the first person to be handed this movie as a director. And when he got it, he rewrote Nicholas the character because he wanted him to be kind of a shitty dude, because he wanted him to be humbled by the game. He was like, it's meaningless if the guy isn't humbled. So he rewrites him with one of his partners. Fincher the director rewrites the character of Nicholas to be a shitty rich dude. And they're like, we need Michael Douglas. So they get him. Douglas is like, I'll do it. At first he said no at first, and then said yes. This is all on the Wikipedia. It's really weird. And then get this, when they're casting for her, at first they were going to use Jodie Foster, but she was doing Contact. so she couldn't do it. And also, Fincher was like, I also don't want her because she shouldn't play a supporting role. She's a monster, right? And so he gets Michael Douglas. He gets Michael Douglas, the actor. How many directors do this? Grab an actor, right? This shows how good Fincher is. Michael Douglas is older than him and probably way more seasoned. And he's like, hey, will you go check this actress out with me? Instead of a casting director, you get the director and the lead. And they go and watch a screen test of her and they're like, okay. And then they go meet her in person, the two of them. And then they're like, yep, it's her. That's Christine. That's how she got cast. Well, I didn't know that until like literally 30 minutes ago. Before we got on, I was like, I should read some stuff.
Well, you kind of need to know the chemistry between the two leads too.
Totally.
I mean, I remember that about Superman, the first Richard Donner film. I mean, they brought in, I think, Carrie Fisher. I mean, there's like videos of
Very hot name.
Yeah. And they just, had to go with who was the best with Christopher Reeve. So that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I'm looking at the time period and I'm thinking, who was hot then? Like maybe like, I don't know if I would have liked it better, but like maybe Renee Zellweger, not Renee Zellweger. I can't remember her name now. Sandra Bullock, maybe.
No, it would have been Sharon Stone.
That too, that would have worked.
But they were
yeah,
already in a movie together called Basic Instinct.
That's true.
Yeah.
So there's no way, right? I almost think that's why Fincher wanted Douglas, because Fincher always wants to have this quiet sexual menace in his films. It's always there. And he's like, I should go meet this girl with him. And she's known for doing like Cronenberg stuff.
Right.
Right. Or Soderbergh. I can't remember which Berg. One of the two. They're both depraved. Like both of them make really depraved films, right? So it's like, I read it. I can look it up. It's on the wiki. Like she was known for doing Crash by Cronenberg. That's not a movie to watch like with your kids in the room.
Crash. Why does that sound
She was
familiar?
in that.
Huh? That's her and James Spader, dude. That's her. That Spader started off like after
the old
Stargate,
Crash.
he was like, I'm actually going to do really inappropriate films after this that are like indie and kind of dark. And like she was the main chick. I remember that. I saw Crash. I watched it and was like, holy crap, what am I watching? Like, but it was good and I knew it was good. So I kind of recognized her. But I don't think I remembered from what. And then I read that today and was like, oh yeah. And like, so that's why she wasn't quite a nobody in certain circles, but to like people that were watching like non NC-17 indie movies, like we wouldn't know who she is, right? But she had chops. I thought she could act, like, but it's weird that Jodie Foster was thought of for that.
I didn't feel like she was quite up to par.
Oh,
I mean,
man,
she was all right, but I mean,
Yeah.
I'm picking out dislikes. I think.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay.
The last one I had, I felt like there were some scenes that were kind of choppy and weird. The main one I was thinking of was the whole segment when the dogs are chasing him down the alley. They jump up on the catwalk. So the dogs are chasing him.
Yeah.
They jump up in the garbage bin. There was like a cut scene where something felt weird all the way up to the point where they fall into the garbage bin. So they climb up on the catwalk and then they're hanging from the thing. And there was some really weird chopped up editing there.
Okay.
That stood out to me. And it makes sense. Fincher wasn't Fincher back then. And I'm sure
Basically his second movie.
And it's 2 hours and 20 minutes. So I'm sure there was some stuff where the studio said, trim this down to that, because anything longer than that.
That would be where to cut it. That seems almost meaningless.
Yeah. And even some of the dialogue there and the acting, even by somebody like Michael Douglas, like it felt like I was watching a different movie for about 5 minutes.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. I could feel you on that for sure.
Like somebody else was directing it. But yeah, I was waiting for that in other parts, and I didn't feel it anywhere else. Just for some reason, that one stuff that could be completely just wiped out.
Yeah.
We didn't need any of it, right?
I mean, it was probably meant to connect him to her
It even did
in
the
a way
weird
where like
thing
she's not a part of the game in your mind as the viewer.
Oh yeah.
The first time you watch it, she's just a stupid waitress.
They even went back to the whole no panties thing where she's hanging and there's the people down there are looking up, and she the reason she falls.
What are you looking at? Yeah.
The reason she falls is because she tries to cover herself with one hand.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you take a 5-minute segment out of a 2-hour and 20-minute movie and say I didn't like that part, it's still a pretty dang good movie. So
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
that's it.
That's all yours?
Yeah.
All right. So I only had one dislike with it, which I feel like might be a major one. I don't know. But I felt like this movie was wildly like convenient. Like the whole thing of him going through the game. I felt like it was like I understand like they had contingencies for like maybe if he didn't do something they wanted him to do, they had a way to kind of make it happen. I wish they had showed it a couple times, like some of those contingencies maybe, because some of the things
at end credits, because that would be revealing that it is the game,
or
right?
something, right, like or something like, because I don't know, some of those things like it kind of took me out a little bit when I was like the scene where he's in the ambulance and they go to the hospital or wherever they go to, and like the lights go out and everyone disappears.
Yeah.
And then like he follows the lady or whatever in the elevator. I'm like, well, what if he decided just like not to go into the elevator?
Right. What's the contingency there?
Like, yeah, like what would have happened?
Right.
Or like where he's in the car and the guy jumps out the taxi and the taxi's flying down the road. I'm like, well, what if like the car hit a bump and just like swerved off to the side and he died in a car crash? Well, I'm like,
right.
what's the plan here?
Crash or something?
Yeah, and I was just like, oh my god. Like there's like I feel like everything that happened like went perfectly according to like him doing whatever they wanted him to do. Like they didn't have to force him to do anything.
Right.
Like when he went to the girl's house, because remember they said all the automatic guns were like squibs and everything, right?
Right.
So that means the guns they were shooting up in her apartment were squibs everywhere, right?
Right.
So what if he never went there? Like what would they have done? What if he never went to that girl's apartment?
Right. Maybe the thing. Okay. So I've thought about this stuff before, Dave, and I'm not trying to shoot your dislike down at all because it was my pick. I'm not doing that. But like,
stop being so nice.
I've watched this a bunch, and I'm every time because I do go down that path where I'm like, well, what if? Like, but it's like that's the point of the test taking all day.
Mm-hmm.
When he goes there, and they're like,
oh yeah, and they find out everything about
every
him.
single contingent, like psychologically, is in place. There are personality tests that are pretty much bulletproof nowadays, right? At this point in the 90s, so they're like, he spends all day there. He takes the physical. We understand. There's like, I kind of just suspend my disbelief there, but I can totally get. I can meet you halfway as far as you being like, I can't suspend my disbelief.
Right. I just like, I think it would have been cool. Like while he was. I don't know, like while he was in the movie, I don't know if there's a way I guess there's a way they could have done it without giving it away, but like while he was in the game, like if he just decided not to do something and like they had to force his hand or something. Like even when he went to the airport, is my camera lagging? Can you guys see me?
No, you're good.
You're good, dude.
Even when he went to the airport and like he sat down and that guy like pointed at the ink.
Yeah, the pen
in his shirt. I'm like, well, like, how did they know he was going to sit there? What if he had sat somewhere else? Like, how would that plan have worked if he had just sat somewhere else? Like,
because that guy was already sitting there. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, like he was already sitting there, like knowing that the guy was going to sit across from him.
Honestly, though, I think the movie sort of gives you that when he goes into the bathroom after that, and the guy's like, "Dude, can you hand me some toilet paper?" And he just walks away from it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man,
they do give you a
what
thing
do you
he walks away from. They do.
Oh,
yeah, and you're like,
and he walked away from. That's a good point. That's a good point.
And I'm like, I always wonder when I watch that exact part, I'm always like, man, is that part of the game that he walked away from? Or is that
I was wondering that too. I was wondering.
And if he had done that, what path would have?
Right. That's a good point.
Yeah.
But that was my only gripe.
Okay.
With it. I still enjoyed the movie. Like, I still loved it a lot.
Yeah.
I watched it.
I totally feel you on that one. Like that was one of my main issues too.
It's really elaborate to believe.
Well, it also reminded me too of one of my dislikes I had before, that this dude would never stay in that place and take these tests for a full hour.
What up, Naveen?
I felt
they knew that probably. They kept telling him it's almost over. to get him to
I
stay.
feel
You
like
know,
he would have been like, knowing him, like he would have been like, I'm out way earlier, no matter what they told him.
yeah.
But
But also, he's the kind of guy that does find empowerment in victimhood, right? He's the kind of guy that's like, oh, I've just had such a fun day with your crack team. Like, he would rather be in a position to say that because it gives him power than walk away and have peace that day. Maybe. I mean, I could totally see that. He's such a complainer in a way that's hostile to a target that gives him power, that if he just walked away, it wouldn't give him the chance to have that power. Maybe, but I don't know. I don't know when they're writing it. I don't know what they're thinking.
Right.
I try not to deconstruct stuff too far because then I start calling people Hitler and everyone gets mad.
well, yeah. Speaking of like political takes, one of the things that I was thinking. Okay, so I know everybody's loving Michael Douglas, but honestly, I think he's fine. But to me, he's not completely, totally captivating.
Oh,
and
wow.
I started thinking about who would have I liked better in this role from that time period that would have maybe grabbed me more.
Yeah.
And the first person I thought of that was doing stuff like that was Denzel.
Oh, for sure.
But
that'd be a good thing.
And then I started thinking, wow, this show is so whitewashed. Is there
I was going to get into that.
one
actually.
color person in the whole thing?
I want
Yeah.
As we're talking, I'm realizing, well, that is kind of the rich persona type thing they're going after. Like, I mean, this is a mild version probably of what real rich people are doing. Like, if you think about like Epstein and that whole possible,
Right.
but like this is the good side of the rich people being insane and
Right.
doing whatever to be crazy. But yeah, I mean, it almost kind of feels like it's whitewashed for a reason because of the type of person we're portraying, the type of person we want to bring down, right? Or like bring back to a particular level of understanding.
Right.
What do you guys think about that?
Well, my big thing that I was going to get into, like, I mean, we can get into it now because we're pretty much done with our dislikes at this point. Like, I kind of wanted to have like an end cap conversation about some of the really big strengths of the film, but also like kind of my thoughts. David Fincher seems to be drawn, with a few exceptions, but he seems to be drawn to films about rich white people problems, and that does bother me, even though he's my favorite director.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see a lot of the movies like feel like almost like tone deaf nowadays. Like when you watch Gone Girl or like when you watch, like the problems are always kind of a rich white person, right? With the exception of like Seven. Seven's a really good exception because you have Morgan Freeman as basically the lead guy. Right. And he destroys it, and he's obviously dignified by Fincher. It's not even a question.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So like, it's tough for me to say this out loud, but like, I still feel it when I watch the game. I'm like, this is just a rich white dude getting smacked, he's paying money through his brother without quite knowing it to get humbled. And it's like, who cares? Like, at the end of the day, how's that actually relevant, even though it's entertaining?
Right.
Because he's not being humbled in the right way. I mean, he kind of is. But like nowadays, like when you look back at it, you're kind of like, I mean, okay, like it's a fun movie to watch, but like, and I will say the same about, obviously, like, House of Cards is rich white guy problems, but that's got its own bad taste in its mouth at this point. Like, but like, Social Network is rich white guy problems. The movie Mank is rich white guy problems. The movie, even though it's insane, even though it's so good, like it, but that's kind of, it's weird. Like I've noticed that before, and I don't know where to put it. Like as a white guy, like, you know what I mean? It's tough to know where to put it, but I see it. Mm-hmm. It's there, and it's like, man, I just wish that Fincher had more people in his films that weren't white. Like, I really badly wish that was true, and it's not. Right. And I don't know where to put it.
Yeah.
I feel like I just never feel that criticism. I never hear that criticism, and I'm like, man, am I the only one that notices it? Like, I can't be the only one that notices that his whole thing is like.
I noticed it during the game. I noticed it. I was like, man, like everyone is white. There's like no black people in this movie at all. Like not even like the help, like the taxi cab driver, like people at the restaurant. Like no one was black in this movie.
Right.
I'm really happy that I noticed it because I don't know if I would have earlier before, the awareness,
Right.
Yeah.
the BLM stuff.
Mhm.
It's like, yeah, we need to see that and do something about it.
Mhm. I mean, that's how it is. I mean, that's how the real world is. Like, you go out places and there's peoples of all kinds of culture, like everywhere you go. That's just how the real world is.
Well, especially where that movie is. I mean, you guys, did you notice where that movie is?
Is that New York?
San
That was
Francisco.
LA.
Oh yeah, dude, come on.
San Francisco.
Yeah, especially any major city. Yeah, New York, San Francisco, Chicago, like any major city. Like, come on.
But what's the other one? Panic Room. That's like a rich white woman.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. And even though it's an amazing film, it's still kind of like you're sympathizing with white people with money. That's like what he's doing to you. And like Fight Club is sort of an exception, but it's not really, because Ed Norton is like, I have the top story apartment. Like, I've just filled with IKEA furniture, which was like really hot shit at the time. Right. Like, and it's him kind of abolishing that, but that's still like a rich white person problem to be like, oh, I have to come to grips and understand with the fact that like I don't need all that stuff. Right? How about the fact that you never had the option to have it in the first place? Where's that in a movie? You're like, you know what I mean? So even though he's my favorite guy, huh?
So do you think he likes portraying, I guess, rich white people as like rich white people who end up, Fincher. He ends up portraying them in his movies as like people who are rich and white and like have to be humbled in some way, or he just likes portraying them in that way?
I think he just doesn't think to include people that aren't white in the story. And I think that feels bad. Like, because even though he's vilifying white people, which I'm fine with, sure. Like, I mean, Girl with the Dragon Tattoo is like the best example of that in his catalog.
Oh yeah, yeah.
God, like it doesn't go any harder than that. Like, as far as playing a rich white guy, right?
Well, I mean, that's not his story, though.
That's not his story, but he was drawn to it. That's my point.
Okay,
like, he was drawn to it, right? And I mean, maybe he feels like as a white dude with money, he doesn't have the right to tell the story that isn't that, right? Okay, it's fine. And he hasn't really spoken about it, and I don't know how much he's been challenged on it, because he's actually celebrated as a director, and because Seven was basically his first movie, and you have like Morgan Freeman in the main role, and he crushes it, and he dignifies him with screen time that's meaningful. Like, that feels like a Morgan Freeman movie to me, more than a Brad Pitt movie, like fully. Yeah. Like, when you watch that movie, Morgan Freeman's the main character. You're identifying with Morgan Freeman. You're not identifying with Brad Pitt. Right. So like, oh, man, I just don't know. And it's tough to have these opinions as a white dude and know when I'm overstepping too. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know, man, but that's like a big thing with this movie, is you're watching a rich white dude be like, oh no, I lost all my money. Right.
I honestly don't know if I would have noticed that I don't think there's one black person in the movie.
I don't think there is either.
I think the only one was that when he first went to CRS, and it was like the secretary lady.
Oh, she is. On the phone. She's black. That's true. Yes.
I think that was the only one that was like in the whole movie, the black person in the whole movie. Which I guess it's like, I mean, it is weird, because I feel like I guess I kind of get what Jared's saying. Like, he's kind of portraying it like, I guess maybe to a rich white person, that's how they view it. Like, they kind of surround themselves maybe with only white people. But I feel like if you're going to be a director and portray like the real world, it's like when you step out into the real world, like, I mean, there's tons of people. There's tons. Like, if I go out right now to a restaurant, like, there's Mexican people, there's Asian people, there's black people, there's white people. Like, there's everyone in the world. That's what it looks like to me, at least when I go out and I notice it. But
yeah, I love that we both know, it's Fincher's amazing, but he feels a little tone deaf, just the tiniest bit. Like, where I'm just like, yo, dude, maybe right. maybe address that pretty soon. Because I mean, Mank was great, and obviously he didn't really have much of a choice with Mank as far as the source material, because of like who those people are. They are white. Like, I get it. Okay, fine. But like, after Gone Girl, I was kind of like not really into watching another white story. As weird as that sounds as a white dude, like, it's like I started to notice it after Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, Gone Girl, and then Mank, and I was like, dude, where are you? Like, what is, like, I don't know, because I also feel like that cinema has actually gotten so much more multicolored recently. Even if it is aggressive and intentional, it's still great. It's still happening around David Fincher, right? And he's still getting lauded because he treats his staff correctly, right? I mean, some people are sad about the retakes. Even Zodiac, dude. Even Zodiac is like, God, all of it. Like, all of it just like a bunch of white people. And I'm like, whatever. I mean, it's just there. It's just there. And it's not fun to talk about, but it's really real. Like, but I don't know. I kind of wanted to mention that because, like, even it goes this far back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like right after 7, which is kind of a shame because, yeah, Denzel would have been great. Denzel could totally play a rich black man.
I could see Denzel playing that role, that lead role, pretty well.
That's such a good call, Jared.
Yeah, that's a good thing. I could see that.
That's interesting to say that. I thought that was a hot take to just pick anybody but Michael Douglas, but I've never been. To me, he's never been like top. I mean, it's hard to say because he is raised in Hollywood, right? But he's okay. He does his thing. Yeah. He does his thing. He does it well. But to me, he just doesn't captivate me.
Yeah, no, he's a great actor, but he's not like a. I don't know. He's not really like an eye-grabbing, kind of actor. I get what you mean.
I really like. I read something today that made me kind of relook at Fincher's work that I didn't know, and it's that he does force people to do like 70 takes of the same short scene, and people asked him why they did that because that's his biggest complaint. He got from like Gyllenhaal hated working with him because he's like, you made me do too many takes, and then the one he picked didn't pop, and Fincher's like, look, a scene shouldn't pop when it's dialogue. It should feel like they're just talking to each other. I do not like when actors are too earnest. So what I do is I beat the earnestness out of these actors with too many takes, and then they're just finally acting normal.
Right.
Whoa.
And I was like, this is why he's my favorite director. That's it. Because every conversation you see, even though they're fast, like almost Kevin Smith fast sometimes, they don't ever feel like you're watching, Dawson's Creek, where everyone's just like overacting all the time. No one's overselling anything, and you just hear the conversation, and you're not fixated, and that almost tricks you into thinking that they're acting well, but they're not. They're being directed well,
right?
Through muscle, right? Through sheer muscle. And I was like, oh, that's nuts that he just like beats people into submission with takes until they stop acting,
right,
and start just having the conversation, right?
That's interesting.
It's really interesting. And the people that liked him were like Sigourney Weaver, Ed Norton, like, the people that are just like monsters. They're all like, oh, I love him. Like, he gave me the perfect direction. I understood what he wanted. I did it. Yeah. Should we go to ratings? Probably. We've been talking a long time.
No, I'm glad we talked about that. Like, I wish Raheem was in here because I mean,
how about the tone deaf part? Yeah. Let's talk about this for a second. Howard Shore did the soundtrack for the game, and not Trent Reznor.
Yes, I forgot that point.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I did not like I got annoyed with the ding 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 piano, ding, 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 and I'm like, who did this? Oh, the guy that did Lord of the Rings, one of my favorite soundtracks ever.
How do you like that? Where's Raheem for that one, man?
Right.
Isn't that funny though? Because like it's actually a fine fit. But I remember yesterday watching the game, I was like, man, if Reznor had his hands on this film,
yes.
Oh,
all right, Izzy. So out of 10,
I'm giving it a 10.
10.
Nice. I honestly think this movie did exactly what it set out to do perfectly. They're like, I can't think of any flaws that would dock it a point. When I watched it again, even still, I was like, no, this is the perfect like thriller with a twist. It really is. So I'm giving it a 10.
Nice. All right. Jared?
Why do I feel bad about kind of going low?
Do it.
As I said from the beginning, pretty good. There was nothing I was blown away by. And it almost takes away from the fact that it was Fincher because it is not nearly as good as his other stuff. Like can you imagine being where we're at now and just being super pumped up after 7 to see the next David Fincher film? And
Right.
Like, it would be like, okay, that was cool, but
I will say this.
I want Fight Club.
This movie was supposed to get made first by Fincher. I read this today too. It was slated to do first. And then what happened? Get this. So, sometimes directors will have multiple things lined up.
Mm-hmm.
This, then 7. And what happened was Brad Pitt was like, I'll be in 7.
Oh, and so they were like, let's do it.
right now.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't even have Michael Douglas cast yet. And Brad Pitt was like, I'll do 7. He committed to 7. And they were like, never mind. Like they told so this movie was supposed to get made first. If that means anything.
Yeah, that happens a lot. And all over it. A lot. Go ahead.
What's your number?
7. But
if you're gonna, I was like, man, if you say 6, I'm gonna come over right now and get you. 7's fine.
All right. It's definitely better than your average movie, and it's definitely better than your average 90s movie.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is, you know what? This is exactly the type of movie I also like.
Mm-hmm.
Where it is like dialogue, tension, good camera work, clean lighting. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, this is exactly the kind of movie I get off on watching in a weird way. And they are largely thought to be boring. This is a good exemplification of like what I like out of a film. So
all about.
I really think the biggest pullback is the same thing that David was saying, like that I tried to kind of make an excuse for.
There's no way this could work this long. Yeah,
way too much. Yeah, convenience.
My rating, I will go. I'm gonna give it a. Oh man, I'm struggling. I think I'm gonna go 7.5.
You can't.
I want to say 8.
Izzy says no 7s. No halves.
Oh, no halves.
That's why I went 10 instead of 5. That's what the half is.
I know. I struggle with that as well.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to go 7 too. I don't know if I can go
100%.
100% going 8. Yeah, 7.2.
Why do you hate?
I think I'm gonna have to go. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go 7. I mean, I still really liked it. I thought it was really good. It's just some of the, even when I was just watching it right before he came on, I just remember a lot of the things he was doing. I was just like, man, like everything he did was just, I felt like was just like he did everything they wanted him to do. Aside from the bathroom scene, but which is fine. I mean, which I'm not saying it's not possible. It's possible.
Right.
It's definitely possible. But it was just like,
man, I expected 8s all around for this. Okay, that's fine. You know what? That's fine. That's what I get. All right.
That's what you get. That's what you get for what? You're being punished.